All right, everyone, have you ever heard of a Lino, a liberal in name only? They're hopping mad right now because they like their crapple products because they can show off their status by buying something for twice the cost that it actually should be. Basically, like if you get something from Crapple, the fact that it has the Crapple logo on it means that they mark it up like 50 or 60%. So people who buy Apple, I don't understand anyone that buys any Apple product. I've boycotted them consistently since day one. Won't use their shitty phones. Got one for, again, maybe a third of the price it would have been if it were a Crapple phone, and it's actually got a better camera on it, which is the main purpose I need it for. But they're chastising Trump for entering a tariff war with China. They're freaking out. There's a link in the description there, archived, of course. It's hilarious because they're like, oh my god, people's Apple products are going to cost more. The next iPhone will be through the roof and stuff. I'm thinking, I remember like years ago when people on the left, they're like, well, China employs slave labor and Apple has all its factories there and the little kids are making your Crapple products. And over time, they just sort of, because of a concerted propaganda effort, because of Orange Man bad in part, I guess they've adopted the idea that corporations are good. Like slave labor is good, corporate fascism is good, censorship by corporations is good. This is apparently the new liberal. The new liberal sounds a lot like a really, really, really moralistic so-called right-winger 20 years ago, like a real pro-war hawk Bush Republican, but even more, but actually religious. So it's sort of like a Pat Robertson or something. They become a little bit religious, I think. They liked the Pope, especially when he was talking about, I don't know, using condoms to prevent AIDS not being a sin anymore or something like that, some stupid cult of personality BS. Right before he invited Islamic prayer in the Vatican, which was, of course, very interesting to people. But yeah, he's endangering Crapple. Oh no. So essentially, he's got people on the left now embracing the idea that corporations are people and what's good for the biggest corporations is ultimately good for everyone else, I guess. Oh yeah, just the fact that a bunch of 10, 12-year-old kids are the ones making your product, that's okay. Gouging profits and using a trademark and all sorts of technology to try to force you to continuously do business with the same company in a vertical monopoly, that's okay. Yeah, the same company that censors people routinely and locks down the App Store and has like, what, 45, 46% market share in a duopoly with Google that has basically the other half. Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Orange Man bad. Trump has got these people so fucking mind numb that they're pro-war, except with regards to Iran or Venezuela. But they want to warmonger after Russia and North Korea specifically. They support corporate censorship. They don't have a problem with child slave labor or with like the Communist Party over there suppressing dissidents. They're weird. Oh yeah, and corporations are great. Like yeah, the more they profit, the better. Oh my God, Trump is rocking the boat with regards to China. Basically, if Trump were to want to, for instance, get the Democrats to support gun rights, all he would have to do is propose more gun control. Very quickly, the Democrats would become a pro-gun party. Oh, see, we told you he was a tyrant fascist. He's trying to take our guns away and keep you disarmed so he can take over and be a dictator and stuff like that. He can put his brain in a machine and he's just going to be the eternal president. It's going to be like President Eden. I have no doubt that some people would be mind-numb enough to actually take the bait and start making that claim. And some of them would be the neocons, the Ann Coulters and Shapiros of the world, who have Trump derangement syndrome now, too. They've contracted bouts of that before, but it's getting worse. Oh my God. He's playing hardball with the communist Chinese. And it was funny, you look at the article, they're like, well, there are two groups that have more power over the economy than Trump does, the U.S. economy, the Chinese Communist Party and the Federal Reserve. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, maybe we should try changing that. Maybe we shouldn't have a bunch of communists and a bunch of communists running everything. Maybe we should be capitalists again. Things would be better. But no, that would be bad because Orange Man bad. Orange Man says that borders are good. Therefore, basically love thy neighbors thyself. And sanctuary cities, which ironically are actually modeled on an OT principle. If you've read, I think it was what was it, the Book of Judges or something, like the condemned, like the exiles and stuff. There were certain cities they could go to, and you couldn't touch them unless they left the city. And then they were basically in an open air prison while there, but they could like have a life and stuff as long as they stayed within the city walls, so to speak. Very interesting, actually, to think of. It's interesting to think of a bunch of people that are supposedly on the left defending a multinational corporation and the explicitly anti-liberal nation of China that stringently controls literally everything. But then I think of like the corporate censorship happening here. which is reaching its pinnacle, its zenith right now with, like, they're trying to deplatform Soph, they're trying to deplatform Paul Joseph Watson and Sargon, everyone else, and it's like, you know, it goes well beyond at this point people that are engaged in real world, far right, extreme, violent activities like originally they used as a shitty excuse for their censorship. I remember that fondly. Back when the leader of Patreon's like, oh, no, it's got to be manifest observable behavior. Mob, like a lynch mob, which is exactly what was generated. It's interesting to see that they'll defend that. They're not even liberals anymore. A lot of people think liberal means like specifically far left. No, liberal is more, in the classical sense, is an Enlightenment ideology. It's open-mindedness, sort of forthrightness, you know, sort of trying to think rationally about things instead of shooting from the hip, number one. Number two, being like, you know, generally nonviolent, tolerant of others, not abusing people, laissez-faire capitalism, you work hard, you have a right to your crops, to your rocks, and all that other shit. It's a good ideology. There's nothing less liberal in the world than the nation of China. Liberal is, leftism, in that sense, economically or now even morally, is totally different. But I mean, the left is acting more like evangelocons than anything else. And look at this. Oh my God, Trump is going after China. It might affect Apple's profits. Your overpriced products might be more overpriced. What's the average person who's, you know, getting any of the more substantial Apple products is a trust fund kid anyway. They've got a trust fund, and Daddy's credit card pays for their overpriced. They had to pay $3,000 for a laptop. It's not even a gaming rig or something like that. It's fucking crazy. Oh my God! Instead of this crapple crybaby pad being $1,500, it'll be $1,700. How will this kid with a $100,000 trust fund possibly afford it? And he's going to spend more on Starbucks lattes in the year than he's going to spend on that. He'll spend more on Starbucks lattes in a month than that incline in price. Stop fucking worrying about it. The U.S. is the buyer in this arrangement. If we're in a tariff war with China, China will lose. Trump is already pointing out exactly how you can do it. Reduce the interest rates. Simple as it. Force the Chinese hand. Force them to fight harder. Force them to dump more money into their economy and go into a tailspin. They won't react that way. They're not crazy enough. They've got good, at least their central planners sometimes make sense. It's not like the ones that were running Venezuela. And they've got an underground sort of style market economy twain with that to help prop things up. It's extremely investor friendly. They need foreign investment. They can't enact too many controls on their economy. They can't re-solidify and centralize everything. They'll scare all the investors off. What happens if they nationalize shit? Well, then they don't get any further investment. Growth goes negative. They fucking collapse. Now, we can get those goods from India or Thailand or wherever else in the world. They can't. They can't sell to anybody else. Nobody else has a big enough economy to buy their goods. They'd be stuck selling to the Russians or the Europeans more. They don't want to buy their shit. We're the ones that want the Chinese goods. And then bullshit like that. It'd be a very interesting time to see what happens with the tariff war. I'm rooting for yes, I'm rooting for my president. I'm rooting for my nation to win the trade war. I'm such a horrible person. Orange man bad. Crapple and communism and shit. That's about all. Peace out.